At the foot of the Auries Mountains lies Timgad, once a thriving Roman county, but now so desolate that it is hard to believe it was a city and the home of a great populace. In general appearance, these ruins are like those of Pompeii. Uncovering of the original pavements revealed hundreds and hundreds of columns, files of which spread over the area of the former city. Who knows, perhaps these traffic towers of another day. This is the central forum around which Timgad was built, and its remains stand today as the giant grove of brown stone columns. Excavations here unearthed 15 bathing establishments near an old prayer altar, proving that the Romans, too, believed in cleanliness next to godliness. These must be some of those sunken baths we've heard so much about. Only some of them have sunk right out of the picture. Note the beautiful carvings of the seats, arches, and temples, which must have made this a truly beautiful city. This amphitheater bears mute testimony to the activities of these early inhabitants. This may be the very theater in which the follies of that bygone day played. These counters may have been part of the stock exchange, something like our own right now, so quiet and peaceful. This beautiful arch is a remarkable specimen of architecture, retained in its original form. In this museum are stored the few pieces of mosaic art overlooked by the Vandals. North of Timgad lies Constantine, situated high on the edge of a rocky gorge in the northern mountains of Algeria. Though enjoying an apparently impregnable position, it has been besieged and taken no less than 80 times. 1,000 feet below, we find the Rimmel River in a deep depression. That's a familiar word, which it has carved around three sides of the city. Constantine boasts of many wonderful bridges which cross the chasm of the unique Rimmel Gorge. It would take 2 days of climbing to get from one peak to the other if it weren't for these bridges. Nice bridge work, eh? And pretty good size, too. In fact, if we dared, we might call them the Bridge of Sighs. Oh, dear. The streets of Constantine are no less picturesque than its location. Here, before these ancient houses, the native craftsmen sit in their open-fronted shops, working on leather, silks, woolens, and what have you. By a strange incongruity, the making of their old-world garments is done on our very modern sewing machine. This, we suppose, is the Sweatshop of Constantine, although they surely have no kick coming about lack of fresh air. We are told they employ non-union help here, and the workers do not have to punch a time clock. Want a job? These youngsters are just loafing here and can hardly keep their hands off the bread. Uh-oh. This looks a bit more like home, doesn't it? Our young friend seems to be a highly polished gentleman. Oh, all right, we'll be good. No, folks, this is not a movie test for Hollywood. The young lady is just a bit too camera-shy for that. Isn't she cute? We now come to the moss-covered ruins of ancient Carthage, once the proud queen of the seas, with a fleet that even Rome envied. But today our imaginations must recreate the scenes of its former splendors. For of all the beauties of architecture, which once were here, only the Aqueduct remains. Built in the 2nd century, it withstood the ravages of time so well that 6 years after the French occupied Tunis, engineers cleaned it out and connected the old aqueduct with the main reservoir there. Thus Carthage and nearby villages are today served with waters from the same banks and through the same aqueduct which was used 13 centuries ago. These are the remains of the vast Colosseum at El Jem, the amphitheater of which was considered the handsomest structure of its kind in the world, but which now stands crumbling and desolate in view of a straggling Arab village in the near proximity. One of its chambers has been made into a chapel in memory of 2 saints who were thrown to the lions in the year 202. The amphitheater, as we pointed out, is rapidly crumbling away, and a good cyclone would move it into the front yards of the villagers' homes. Never tiring, we travel on to the Moorish city of Tunis, affectionately called the White City by the Arabs. Since it is a very colorful place, it is difficult to learn just why it was so called, unless it was because of its white mosques and minarets. It is very exotic and oriental, and the capital of the country, and much larger and more cosmopolitan than the other Tunisian centers. Notwithstanding the French occupation, Tunis remains distinctly oriental. For 13 centuries, the lofty minaret of the largest mosque in Tunis has looked down upon our world, which, just think of it, was already worn with antiquity when Columbus sailed into the West. It is made entirely of tile and painted in a highly decorative manner. The typical Moorish arch, horseshoe-shaped, enters everywhere into the city's architecture. Most of the women are still heavily veiled, which in a great many cases is just as well and perfectly okay with us. No, this is not a modern bargain counter, but it is one of the most interesting sights in Tunis. The souks, or covered bazaars, known in our world as a market, where trade is carried on in the traditional Eastern fashion. In these recesses, the merchants sit cross-legged like so many Buddhas. It looks as though they are clipping coupons, an old custom long since forgotten in our own country. After he made his sale, this merchant advised his customer to count his change before leaving. Life here is not measured in hours, nor is business permitted to interfere with pleasure. Tunis has its tea time. Pardon me, coffee time. Let this be a lesson to the coffee clutchers in the audience in how to serve without spilling. This fellow will probably be asked for a testimonial for this particular brand when he's through tasting. This is a well-dressed Tunisian woman, proving that taste, after all, is relative. We are now giving you the same special treat which was afforded us when we visited this Moorish palace, which is a revelation in beauty not surpassed by anything to be seen in our Western Hemisphere. There are no finer examples of tile and stonework to be seen anywhere, we are sure. Its stately garden is a vision of grace and symmetry. Outside the walls, in the background, can be seen the French quarters, with its public shops, buildings, and theaters, in no way conflicting with the old world Tunis. Only a picturesque portion remains of the old stone aqueduct, built in the reign of the old Roman Justinian, which is connected with the one at Carthage, and over which time and nature have thrown a concealing mantle. On the desert wastes surrounding these ancient Roman cities in Africa, Bedouins make their homes. The women and children do all the work while the sheik rests. Here, unemployment and bad business cause no worry. Is this young lady flirting with us? Now, what do you suppose all that wagging means? Let's get up a little closer and find out. No, that wasn't it. Just a nice little family gathering out on the front lawn for an airing. This, ladies, is just to prove that children need not interfere with your daily tasks. This old chap apparently has never heard of daylight shaving time. Uh-oh. When the sheik is tired of his surroundings and of his landlord, he puts his bed in a bag, packs up and moves, since he finds it cheaper to move than pay rent, even as you and I.